It's time for the Hockey Writers Grindline, a weekly show covering everything Detroit Red Wings. Brought to you by our own iconic top line of Wings writers. Sit back and enjoy the grind.
Welcome to the Hockey Writers Grindline. I'm your host, Pat Brown, and joining me as always, my line mates Devin Little and Kyle Knopp, and we are thrilled to have you here for another grind. Just a reminder, this week's show being brought to you by Morning Skate, a daily newsletter delivered to your inbox Monday through Friday, and it's jam-packed with the best hockey stuff on the planet. It's a daily dose of the latest NHL news, rumors, history, funnies, quizzes, etc., etc. Just a little hockey fun and information brought to you every weekday from the Hockey Writers. You'll see a link in the show description down below, and while you're down there in the description, why don't you go ahead and toss us a like? Make sure to subscribe to the Hockey Writers YouTube channel, because it's not just us on here. You don't want to miss any of our very best coverage, but, well, you're here with us right now, so let's talk some hockey. Good to kick off another show with you, gents. We're going to start with an oldie but a goodie, the obligatory oldie but goodie. One good, one bad from the week that was. And I'll kick it off really quick as usual. My good is actually going to be the fight that the Red Wings showed against the Bruins the other night. Down to literally channeling my inner Parks and Rec, literally the final buzzer.
Yeah.
And look, it was ugly at times, and there were a lot of people on both sides that were in the wrong. But seeing the fight at this stage of the season, out of the playoff hunt, but still seeing that resilience and that drive to win when they hadn't been playing well, to me, was a good and a positive. And oh, by the way, they won the game, which certainly helped as well. My one bad is apparently we just want to allow first-time hat tricks to every Ottawa Senator out there. So Matthew Joseph and Josh Norris back-to-back 5-2 Ottawa Senator wins over the Red Wings, and they both recorded their first career hat trick. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's my bad, and we are going to move on to happier thoughts. So, Devin, I'm looking at you next. Let's hear one good, one bad from the week that was.
Well, to kind of piggyback off your point about, allowing hat tricks to Ottawa Senators, my bad's just going to be overall being swept by the Senators this past weekend. I think on last week's show, Kyle, you had mentioned how they got to get at least 2 points out of that series, and they got 0. So you hate to see that, especially against a team that's pretty much right where they are in terms of like the standings in the division. Yep. It's not like this was, the Florida Panthers or something. They should have gotten points, but they did not. But a team that they did get points against in their division was the Bruins, like you said, Pat. And they also got a nice win north of the border against the Winnipeg Jets. And for my money, and this is my good, that was their best effort all season north of the border. Obviously, we know that they're missing Robbie Fabry. They're missing Tyler Bertuzzi in that game. Coming right off, it was a back-to-back after that game against Boston. All the ingredients were there for them to lose that game, and they won, and they earned the win too. It wasn't like a fluky win. So to see them kind of bounce back from being swept by the Senators to then get 2 wins in a row makes me feel a lot better about this team heading into our show tonight. Let me tell you.
Absolutely. And again, like you said, the resilience, it's would have been easy to roll over and play dead after kind of getting embarrassed by a team that's equal, if not lesser, to be honest. So good points, Devin. Good points. Kyle, over to you. Give us one good, one bad from the last week.
So both my good and bad are going to echo what you both just said. My bad, I'll start with that, was definitely the Ottawa Senators game. Both games actually 10 4-2 games and a home-to-home series with them against a team that, to me, is a benchmark for the Red Wings this season. They're very similar in makeup and their rebuilds. They're very similar in types of young guys driving their play, and where they are coming up in the back end. And so I see these teams kind of looking at each other to see where they are as benchmarks this year. And the Red Wings certainly did not live up to where they should be. And so that was my bad. I think they just absolutely got embarrassed for both those games. Like you said, Fabry and Bertuzzi weren't in Ottawa, but it didn't seem to matter because Fabry's out, but Bertuzzi didn't do anything in Detroit anyway. And just there seemed to be no life there. So that's definitely my bad, was that those 2 games against Ottawa. My good, like Devin said, was their trip up to Winnipeg. Coming off of getting embarrassed by a team that's right where they are and playing against a team that's really fighting for every win that they can get before the end of the season and make a playoff push if they can make that final push. And the Red Wings came out and they played a complete game. I mean, I think they played one of their best games of the season. And again, without Tyler Bertuzzi. And it was one of those things that we saw this season in Canada, that they were just not, they didn't have that bite or that edge to them that Bertuzzi provides. And then to see them play that way in Winnipeg against a solid team was something that I think they should hang their hat on.
Yep. I think those are all good points. Sounds like we're in agreement, and there was no collusion before this call. So gotta say, I think it was pretty obvious, I guess, this week, what stood out on both ends of the spectrum. So good stuff, boys. Good stuff. Now, let's move on to, half of what we were talking about was good, but let's move on to all good here, because there is an individual on the Detroit Red Wings who is seemingly having a coming out party right before our eyes, and that is the one, the only Michael Rasmussen, who is on a tear right now. For those of you at home, we're taping this on, what is today, Friday. So as of right now, the stats are he has scored in 3 straight games and 4 of his last 5. It just seems like they're calling his number a lot. You're seeing him a lot. You're hearing his name a lot. And I got to ask you guys, where did this come from? Why is Michael Rasmussen all of a sudden experiencing all of this success? I've got my own thoughts. I'll wait to the end because I feel like I steal all the ideas when I go first. And Kyle, coming over to you, what has been the key to Michael Rasmussen's success late here in the season?
In a word, confidence. Michael Rasmussen has played with a ton of confidence this season, and you have seen it shoot through the roof from the beginning of the season to now. And I think that has just elevated his game and really just taken him to that next level this season. And he's in the point where in his head, he says, I belong here, I can play with them, and I can outplay the opposition. And so to have that, especially at the NHL level, and to be able to build off of that throughout a season and then see results from it is just really what I believe is driving his play and is really going to help lead him into next season. So in a word, confidence, and I'll keep it short with that, but I think the confidence in his game has really, really, really made him invaluable this season.
That's a great call out. I feel like we saw something similar out of him towards the end of last year.
Yeah,
actually.
Yes.
And yes. I remember, it feels like forever ago, but I remember last season, even the beginning of this season, talking about how Rasmussen had really surprised and really taken a step forward at the end of last year. And then it was kind of this limbo again. So he may be a figurative and literal third period team. But it's going well. So Devin, over to you. Why has Michael Rasmussen had so much success these past few weeks?
Well, I think that for a player like Rasmussen, I think he finds success in just keeping things simple. Yep. He, most of his goals, without looking at them in front of me right now, I'm pretty sure all of them came within like 5 feet of the crease. And and it's either him going to the net and just kind of banging it home, or he's, putting home a rebound. It's one of those things where I don't think he's doing anything drastically different. Like, I don't think he plays an overcomplicated game. I don't think he has at any point this season. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a sense of keeping it simple, and now the pucks are going in, and that breeds that confidence that you're talking about, Kyle. And when you're feeling confident, you're, for one reason or another, the pucks just start to do what you want them to do. So I think Rasmussen's just done a good job of kind of sticking to it, even when things weren't going his way, keeping it simple, going to the net, which is where a big guy like him is gonna have success. Yeah. And he's and even beyond that, I think he's just starting kind of like what you said. He seems like it seems like he feels like he belongs now. Yeah. He's just acting, that confidence is kind of exuding from him, where he's doing things that professionals do. He's not a rookie anymore. He's a player that's played 140 games or something like that. He has some experience under his belt. And so when all that comes together, you've got a player who's got 4 goals in 5 games. And I think I want to see him continue this through the end of the season. I don't want to see it taper off, because like you said, Pat, it is kind of a repeat of last year, but it is good that it is happening.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And for what it's worth, I think it's even more impressive this year than it was last year.
For sure.
I feel like it's an additional step forward for him. And Devin, this is exactly why I said I was going to go last, because you took the words right out of my mouth. So I'm glad I didn't steal your point. He's going to the net, baby. He's going to the net. He's keeping his stick on the ice. I mean, that's like the first freaking thing they teach you once you know how to skate. He's doing those fundamentals correct. And then, Kyle, to your point, that breeds confidence. Success breeds confidence. You see the results, and he's getting the results, and he's not going to score every game, but he's getting to the net. He's getting those, everybody's favorite, those greasy goals, right? He's there to pick up those garbage goals and keep his stick on the ice and go from there. So I think I agree with both of you. Devin will give you the last word here in just a moment. So agree with both of you, and I'm excited to see what he can do. To your point, Devin, towards the end of this year into next year, can he carry it over? Because that's the next step. Yep. Now he needs to roll this over into the beginning of next year and continue that momentum. That's the next step. Devin, you get the last word on this one.
There is a piece of me that wonders if he is basically sort of accepted what type of player he is. Because, obviously we all know he was drafted 9th overall in 2017. And with that comes certain expectations, not just from the fan base, but from yourself. And I think that he's at a point now where he knows he's not going to be a top line center. He knows he's probably not even going to be a second line center. So now that he's it seems like he's accepted what he is in the NHL, and that allows him to do the things that he needs to do in that role.
Yep. I stated perfectly. Perfect way to wrap this. So, well, let's move on to our next segment here. And let me tell you, Filip Zadina, he must be saying his prayers at night and being a very good boy, because it seems like his prayers have been answered in the form of Jakub Vrana. I should know this by now, but if the sound is always muted and I only read the names anyway. First name pronunciation irrelevant.
We need Ken and Cal back here to tell us all the pronunciations.
Vrana has seemingly ignited Zadina's game, and I may be going a little bit over the top with that description, but at the same time, you see it. They seem to have a really good flow. They seem to have a really good, understanding of one another, and none was more evident there than when Vrana assisted on a Zadina one-timer there against Boston, which actually gave Detroit the lead at the time, rallying back from 2 down and put them up 3-2. Beautiful pass, beautiful play by Vrana to set it up and draw the attention over, and then Zadina, I know it's hard to believe, finished. He put it top shelf, he elevated the puck, and he finished. And boy, was that refreshing to see. So, Devin, we start with you this time. Is Vrana the answer to Zadina's prayers?
I think it could be. This is something that we talked about, however long ago when we were talking about, should we keep them? Should they not? And the point kind of came up where it's like, well, I want to see him with Vrana. I want to see what happens there. And we're seeing what happens when he plays with Vrana. I'm not saying that like this is it. This is what's got to happen. You got to have them conjoined at the hip, but I think that's something that you need to stick with at least for the rest of the season because the trade deadline's gone now, right? Like it's coming past. They're not going to get rid of Zadina for the rest of the season. And whether or not you decide to get rid of him in the off season, you want to have him finish strong because that's only going to boost his value. If you let him, decay and not do anything, you're not going to get anything for him. Yeah. So, and that's of course without saying that, that's saying that you're deciding to trade him. But either way, when you see plays like that, like the one against Boston, you want to see more of that. And that was a play that I think you can repeat more or less. It's not something that that could happen again. Yep. And if you can ignite this kid that obviously has struggled mightily this season, you should do it. And for his point too, I think it helps Vrana do more than just score because he's doing that play. Yeah. Zadina gives him a player to pass to. So yep. I think it's a mutually beneficial situation at this point.
Not only is that last part about Vrana spot on, I'm not ready to eat a full plate of crow just yet, and it will be delicious if I have to. Rest assured, I will happily eat it. But Devin, I forgot until you started off your reply with the fact that, I think I'm on record saying, if you're dependent on one player coming back to the lineup to spark you, you're in trouble and you're probably not going to make it. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're talking about a few weeks worth. It's a small sample size and teams make adjustments and everything else. But Devin, I'm really glad you brought that up because I kind of forgot about it till just now. And I thought it was ludicrous, the suggestion that one player coming back would make all the difference in the world. And so far, the early exit polls say it is. So, Kyle, you got the last word on this one. Why does Vrana seem to have such an impact on Zadina's game?
It's a great question. And, Zadina is the type of player that is going to take the defense's, their focus on the ice. So when you put him with another player like Vrana, that's a skill player, a sniper that can score from anywhere and is always dangerous with the puck in the offensive zone. Now the defense has to split that focus between two players that could attack and hurt him at any point. And so I think that is what is really sparking Zadina's play right now is he's able to get more space. He's able to have more time and he's able to have a little more, opportunity for offensive creativity, whether it's getting the puck to Vrana and knowing that he will finish or finding space and then getting the puck from Vrana and then finishing on his own. So I think that even though they are very similar players, having them play together really, really stretches thin the opponent's defense and really creates opportunities where you're getting one of them against a forward that can really make space and then snipe in the offensive zone. So I think having both of them out there in turn and then with a playmaking center or a grinder of a center or third wing or whatever, or other wing or whatever they're playing, I think is really what's going to bring this line together and really make them dangerous the rest of the way. I don't necessarily think they might be each other's answers to their prayers in the long term, at least in the sense of the Red Wings looking at keeping them together or needing to keep them together to be successful in the long run. It could be a sense of one or the other, in which case I think we all know which one that would be. However, in the scope of the final 10, 11 games or so, I think you're right, Pat. You put Zadina out there with Vrana, let them just kind of go off on the offensive side of the puck, and then you use that as bait for a trade after the season.
Makes sense. I'll end this one. I said it before, I'll say it again. It doesn't matter who's passing to you. If you're elevating the puck, good things are going to happen. Yeah. So I don't know why that stuck out to me so much on that Zadina goal, because it just feels like, and I don't mean anything by this, I really don't, but it feels like often he's shooting right into the pad.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not elevating. So that one-timer, beautiful shot, not quite bar down, but close to it. And if you're elevating the puck, it doesn't matter who's passing to you, you're doing good things. So you hope, if nothing else, maybe this jump starts him and he continues to build on that success.
Yeah. And to add to that there, Pat, like you said, he's supposed to be a goal scorer. He's supposed to be a sniper. And when you watch him constantly put the puck back across the grain into the goalie's chest or pads or whatever, and not pick those corners, it gets really frustrating. You know, that's what you expect out of your snipers, to hit those spots, hit your corners, hit your low post and in where the goalie can't reach it. And when he's not doing that and he's just plugging them right back into the goaltender, you know, I think that's why you felt, you know, relieved to see that type of goal where you're like, okay, he can snipe. So I think that's, you know, something that he definitely needs to prove the rest of the season as well.
Good stuff. A good conversation. We've got to move on. Don't forget, at home, sign up for the Hockey Writers Morning Skate at morningskate.io so you do not miss the best daily hockey newsletter on the planet. It's delivered every weekday at 8 a.m. sharp. Be the first to know what's happening in the world of hockey. And again, while you're at it, it's down in the description. Toss us a like. Subscribe to the Hockey Writers YouTube channel because you're missing out if you haven't. All right. Short and sweet. Running up against time. So back nine will be a little bit shorter, par three. So let's start off with goalie shuffle, Devin, because we've talked about this a little bit in the past. And where do you go with your goalie tandem right now between Ned and Grice? To their credit, both have won their last start, which I don't think I've said that very often this year.
Nope.
But both have won their last start. So we'll make it short and sweet. How do you handle the goaltending situation for the rest of the season? Do you take Nedeljkovic and ride him out and get him all the experience, or are you going to kind of alternate the way Blash has been doing here, you know, the last few games? So, Devin, we're going to start with you.
So I wouldn't go like every other with them, kind of like how they did at the start of the season. Mm-hmm. But I do think that there is value in giving Grice some starts. You know, there's like 10 or 11 games left in the season. So give him 3, you know, sure. because I think part of the reason why Nedeljkovic has struggled so much in the pretty much since December is because Grice hasn't been there to, he needs rest. He hasn't gotten rest. And you know, obviously there's only a few games left. And so how much can you really burn out a guy? But he's still in a position where he's developing as a goalie. Goalies develop way differently than a forward or defenseman. Yep. And you don't want to overburden this guy if you're trying to make him into your goaltender of the present. And even though Grice doesn't have, you know, he's not a part of the long-term picture here, you still need to rely on your backup goaltender to give Ned those nights off. You know, like I said, don't split them 50-50, but you got to be willing to give Ned the night off. It's not like they need the points anymore. In fact, if there's kind of an argument to be made that losses are okay now.
Yeah.
So, you know, just give Grice the starts here and there, and give Ned the majority, but not the complete, the full work slate.
Good stuff. And for what it's worth, your last point is exactly kind of where I landed on it. Alternate them. Losses aren't bad right now. You know, we don't like to see him lose, but you kind of are where you are at the season. Yep. You're way out of the playoffs. So at this point, you know, alternate, get the experience, get Ned some rest. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Kyle, you got the last word. How do you handle the goaltending tandem for the next few weeks, for the rest of the season?
This is where I'm going to disagree a little bit with Devin. And if it were me running the show, I would certainly split them down the middle, half and half. Basically, I think, you know, like Devin said, we talked about this earlier in the year. One of our big kickbacks about Ned was he was getting overworked a bit, and we didn't want to burn him out so much. And now that we're already this deep in the season, he's had his first full season at the level, at any level in the NHL, first full season, first 82 game, you know, and you could tell there were spurts of the year where he looked gassed.
Absolutely.
And I think saving his mental health going into the season and not burning him out necessarily by physically exhausting him every game, but also mentally exhausting him. You know, when you have to prepare for a game, it starts the night before, how you prepare, how you eat, how you sleep, how you wake up, how you conduct your day. To give him some more of those days off would really just to give him some mental health days as well. As we've seen, a day off doesn't mean you're not coming in for the Red Wings, though.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily necessarily mean that you can't be completely out of it, but I think it would go a long way with keeping him a little more fresh going into next season. And then again, we can't tank the last 10 games and get a really good pick, but we could lose, a handful of those and really, go from a 10, 11 pick to maybe a 6 or 7 pick. So I don't think there's any reason not to start them both. But yeah, I think any way they do it is really going to be okay.
Good stuff. Good points. We're going to move on to the next topic here, which actually comes from a comment on the last week's show. Nice work, by the way. Nice work. Leave your comment down below. We want to hear about it. We might talk about it next week. And this week's comment is brought to you by Red Wings fan. That's the username. That's the username. I promise.
When I saw that, I just thought you just skipped on their name and really was like, so one of our fans said it.
Somebody. No, Red Wings fan. And short and sweet. Jake Walman is better than Nick Leddy. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Super quick, little bit of context. Leddy's played roughly 20 more games this season. He's got a Corsi for under 50%. Walman's slightly over 50% if you're into that type of thing. We've got Walman. I think his shot's a lot of fun to watch. Yeah. He's got a pretty booming shot, and I think that's a lot. And then just one more to throw out there. Point share, Walman's at about a 1.4 point share, Leddy at 1.0. So the numbers seem to back up Red Wings fan. But Kyle, we're going to start with you this time. Is Jake Walman better than Nick Leddy?
The way I approach this question is you have to compare them at the same spot in their career. So right now, Nick Leddy is 5 years older than Jake Walman. I think Leddy was better than Walman at that stage in his career, but I think Walman has a potential to really continue to develop and be a solid defenseman for the next 6 years or so until he gets to Leddy's age and really continue to play where he is now. So in terms of, do I think he's better than him? At where they were in their careers? No. Do I think his ceiling could potentially be higher? Yes.
Devil's advocate, a yes or no is perfectly fine here. Taking age out of it, just comparing this season. How do you answer that question?
He's been better than advertised, I will say. I think Walman has been the better of the two between this season when you compare him straight up. But again, he's got the youth on his side.
You could be a lawyer, Kyle. You could be a lawyer. Devin, we're coming to you. You got the last one on this one. You had to pull sticks. Whose stick you want to pull, Jake Walman or Nick Leddy?
Well, we already established that Cal can be a lawyer. Remember, he didn't say how he would fill the nets with pucks.
That's right.
Anyways, so this question or this statement, I guess, is tricky because it's not. Yep. It's comparing apples to oranges. It really is.
That's why I picked it, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get why. Like, there's all sorts of logic that points to Walman being better. I mean, you pointed out the stats. He fits with the team in the sense that he's young, and that's where the team is gravitating. And he's a lot of fun to watch. Watching him skate the puck up through the neutral zone. Team needs a lot more of that. But he hasn't been producing. I think he's got 1 point with the Red Wing, maybe 2. Not a lot of games, but for all the offensive flair that he shows, you'd like to see it actually translate.
Yep. No goals yet.
Yep. And then also with Leddy, they're kind of hoping that he would produce a bit more than he did, but he wasn't just there to be, a source of offense. He was there to be a veteran leader, a mentor. Exactly. And Walman can't be that. Walman's not even an established NHLer yet.
Absolutely.
So it really depends on what you're trying to get out of, this player. If you're trying to get a player that has been there, done that, has a championship ring and can provide, a steady presence and, has been there, done that, then you go with Leddy. But if you're trying to get a player that maybe is something, maybe, whatever, then Walman's your guy. I don't feel comfortable saying Walman's better than Leddy because Leddy has a way better resume than Walman. But I completely agree with Kyle where Walman's in a position where he could still develop into a defenseman that is way better than Leddy, at least right now. So I'm kind of splitting hairs here, but I'm going to say no, only because if we're comparing resumes, it's not even close.
When are you taking the bar, Devin?
Yeah. I'm still studying.
I was actually gonna say, boys, we are simpatico tonight because I think what you hit on the most is at least kind of what struck a nerve with me, of those intangibles.
Yes.
Cliche but true. Your locker room guys, your veteran presence, and there's no doubt Nick Leddy brought that to the team. So, I agree with everything you guys say. We're running low on time, so we're going to move to our last topic, which should be pretty quick hit. I just want to know who this year, not named Seider or Raymond, has impressed you the most. And I'm very excited to hear your answers. I'm just going to throw a name out there super quick and move on. Might be obvious, but I'm going to go with Dylan Larkin. He got 67 points in 66 games. What an impressive season for him. What a great bounce back season for the captain of the Detroit Red Wings. 30 goals, not done yet. Just leading the team top to bottom by example as well. And that's my pick. Dylan Larkin has surprised me this season. I think he's been a solid leader and done some really good things. So, Devin, over to you. Who not named Seider or Raymond has impressed you the most this year?
I wish that there were like a ton of options for this question, but the more I thought about this, the more it came down to basically just two players. One of them being Larkin, and I could easily, be persuaded that it's Larkin. But the other player, and the one I'm going to go with, is Tyler Bertuzzi.
Yeah,
and the reason why I'm going with him is because he's basically been a point per game player this season, and that had never happened in his career. Larkin had been close at least one season, so we knew that he was capable of it. Bertuzzi, we didn't see that. He's taken his game to a whole nother level this year. And on top of that, he definitely looks like one of the players that is a leader without a letter on this team. All sorts of things going on with his game this year, and it's just really impressed me. And I'm very, very eager to see what his next contract looks like, because he's definitely earned a raise.
Absolutely. I think the reason I landed on Larkin was because we were talking before this season started, even with Keith Gave, who was on, and we were talking about Larkin not even being a second line center. Yeah. So that alone, to me, with the year that he's had, is why I went with him. Kyle, final word for the show. Tell me who on this Red Wings roster, not named Seider or Raymond, has impressed you the most.
You both bring up great arguments. I think both of those two players are the two players that instantly come to mind. At the beginning of the year, we talked about how Larkin needed to have a solid season, not necessarily a great season, but a solid season. And he has turned that and took it and took off with it. I mean, he has had probably one of his best, all around complete seasons. I think at least essentially, especially since taking the C, but I think since joining the team. Bertuzzi, I hear your arguments. I understand that he is the sandpaper for the team. He is kind of that driving heart, but there's just a lot there that I still don't quite think he's there as that unsung hero. And then I'm going to throw a third out at you. And this was one of our deadline pickups, and that's going to be Sundqvist. Oscar Sundqvist. I like him, and I think he is showing a lot of new life in this change of scenery. I think being with Detroit, he looks happy on the bench. He looks involved in the game. He's using his body. He's using his physicality. He's making opportunities happen. And it looks like he is just happy as can be in Detroit. And so I'm going to throw that out there as a quarter season unsung hero. But I think Larkin was really answered the bell this year and really proved to us that he is what we had hoped he was going to be.
They don't call him Sonny for nothing.
That's Devin, true. Devin, pop quiz. Who was noticeably absent from Kyle's response?
What are you going, Mr. Adam Ernie?
That's exactly where I'm going with that. And that is how we end the show, ladies and gentlemen. In case we haven't convinced you with our first two plugs, sign up for Morning Skate. You will look like a hockey genius at 8 a.m. every single weekday. Whether you're reusing the witty titles, we're looking at you, Maddie's Hattie, or roll off some mind-blowing trivia every morning. I mean, how well does anybody really know Keith Yandel? It's the kind of content that'll put a smile on your face. Join the fun at morningskate.io. We love you guys so much. Don't forget, toss us a like, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for joining us for yet another grind. That's our show. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.